Oh,
There you go.
hello, everybody.
Hi, Dana. Okay, you can take it away, Mert. Oh,
Okay. First of all, from Istanbul, Turkey, good evening, I can say, because it's almost like 2 past 8 p.m. The weather is still kind of like a light. And as you can see from my background, maybe a little bit, it's a kind of like a cool weather, which is not normal for the here. And today, folks, what we're going to do, I'm going to talk about a little bit eastern part of Turkey. And I want to talk about a little bit the structure, geography, what's going on, people, ethnical groups, communities, religions. And then I would like to talk about a few cities and which wonders. Because around a month ago, we did together the general Turkey and the central and western part of Turkey, which is very important. It's the heart of the Greek civilization. It's the place biblically very important, especially for the early Christianity. And you can see the same importance in the eastern part of Turkey as well. Not maybe economically very strong, geographically a very tough region, but it's still worth to visit, worth to discover. I was over there recently and did a 1 week trip with all my tour guide colleagues. I was giving them the training about that region. It was a phenomenal experience for me as well to see the beauties of this place. So, let's start a little bit, some geographical backgrounds. The whole Turkey, folks, for the Canadians, we're still a small country, but for the US European standard, Turkey is a big country. To understand the whole the size, put the whole Texas here, not enough. You need to add at least half of California to the top of Turkey, and then you can get this big, massive country. In European scale, whole France plus Spain plus Portuguese. So the region I'm mentioning about, and we're going to travel today virtually, is the eastern and the southern eastern part of country. That's basically equal to 1/3 of the whole Turkey. Although it's size-wise is a 1/3 of the country, population-wise it's not the same. Only 1/5 of the country live in these two major regions. In the eastern part of Turkey, we get population roughly 6 million, and that in the southern eastern part of Turkey, although it's much smaller than the eastern part, there are roughly 9 million people. They live in that part as well because of the some heavy industries. Remember, every time I talk, I use the one cliche word. Geography is your fate. That's really something you can see in the eastern part of Turkey. If you let's go back, and this is a whole Turkey, and in the country, we're in a junction of the three old continents. And in the north of the country, we have Pontus Mountains. These are the big chain mountains. And in the south of the country, we have Taurus Mountains. These two mountain chains are the connection between the Alpines of the Europe and Himalayas of Asia. But when these two parallel mountains in the north and south move together in the eastern part of Turkey, they mixed. And that's why, ladies and gentlemen, this is a geographical mess. Average altitude was roughly 8,500 feet up to 9,000 feet. And we have 5 peaks in here, which are over 15,000 up to 18,000 feet high. The legendary mountain Ararat, actually located right behind the front of the Armenian border in the north of the Lake One. And we get at least 6 other peaks over 15,000 feet high in here. That's why if you hike around the region, you can see high plateaus, lots of high mountains, and we get deep valleys. And in those deep valleys, we have some microclimate areas where we still cultivate lemon, tangerine, orange, and lots of great wines. Bosquera wines coming from that region, according to French wine masters, were the grandfathers of the Cabernet Sauvignon wines, And around the first century AD, it was taken by the Roman mercenaries, probably through the west, and then with a grafting method with all the other local French wines, they start to produce Cabernet Sauvignon. So we get the grandmothers actually right in here. And you can see this is also the major source, beginning part of the two biblical rivers, Euphrates and the Tigris. There's a one big lake over there called Lake One, Ban, and I will talk about this lake when we come to the city of Van. But when you go to the southern eastern part of Turkey, this is actually, we can today describe as the North Mesopotamia. Remember, Mesopotamia is a Greek word which means in between the two rivers. And those rivers were the rivers mentioned in Genesis 12:9, the borders of the Garden of Eden, Euphrates and the Tigris. On the left side of the map, you see the Ataturk BRG and Karakaya BRG. BRG means dams. And you see the Euphrates on the left. And the Tigris, it writes Dicle, Diyarbakir Batman in between, on the right, and the left and right. They flow through the whole the Middle East, and around the northern Iraq, they get together and flow through the Persian Gulf. And that created an amazing territory. And Turkey did a one good thing in the mid-1980s. We have started a big project, and during this project, we have built almost 50 dams in the waters of Euphrates and Tigris, and created an amazing irrigation plan. With this irrigation plan, in this territory, apart from rice, pistachios, we also start to cultivate cotton, which is very important, the backbone of the Turkish textile industry. Okay, guys, it is ethnically a very mixed region in both east and eastern part of Turkey. And you can see nearly every representative of the Middle East people. You see Kurds, which are the major majority in Turkey, minority in Turkey. Their population is almost 20 million, but only 10 million of them, they live in this part. Rest of all the Kurds spread it around the country. And then we get a lot of Arab-speaking people. We have Zazakis, and we have Aramaic speakers. Folks, this is the language of Jesus Christ. And still, Assyrian Christian community, in their daily life, in their religious practice, they still use the language of Christ. And I got an interesting experience. One of my college mates, he was coming from that region, an Assyrian Christian. Remember, it's roughly 15 years ago. There was a movie of Mel Gibson, which was shot in Aramaic language. It's about the Passion of Christ. And we watched this movie together with several friends. And Hussein, which is my Aramaic speaking Assyrian friend, he was the only one not looking even the subtitles. And while we were watching the movie, sometimes he was just saying that, this is a crap accent, Mel Gibson, you cannot pronounce it that way, because he make his like a daily life, he speaks with his mom with the language of Christ. That shows how ethnically this region is. And the other interesting language, probably you never heard, is Zazaki. Zazaki is one of the Persian languages, part of the languages group, and those people, they claim that they were the successors of the ancient Medes. We created an amazing empire between the first millennium and the 800 BCs. And of course, in that kind of diversity, you see a lot of different religions practiced in the region. Christianity with the different versions, and then Islam, Sunni and Alawite versions. And then Yazidis are other interesting belief group over there. And I will talk about that, the Armenian Apostolic Church. They get a lot of Armenians, and we get a lot of also roughly 1,000 Greeks live in that region and keep their traditions as well and their religious practices. But among them, I will today talk about two important ones. One of them I'm going to mention a little bit now, the Yazidis, and later on, when we travel together virtually to the city of Mardin, I will talk about Assyrian Church as well. But what is Yazidism? Probably some of you never heard that one before. It's a monastic ethnic religion, which has its roots from pre-Zoroastrian religion, come from Persian actually. And it is very popular, and it's an important religion among the Kurmanji spoken Kurds. Their population today in Turkey, not more than, unfortunately, 10,000 people. And around the northern Iraq, they got 20,000 people. But today, mostly in California, their population reached up to 40,000 people. Yes, so many of them, they migrated to the United States, especially during the 70s and the 80s. Their belief is quite interesting because they believe in God and a monotheist God. And God created the world and then entrusted to seven holy angels. And among those angels, there's one called Melek Tavus, which is equivalent of the Gabriel probably, has authority in this world as well. And this is a quite interesting angel because it's a belief that when God created the humans, Adam and Eve, and asked all the angels to bow to them, he is the one who refused to bow. And that's why in Islam sometimes, and part of the Christianity, they interpreted this angel as the Satan, but it was not Satan. It's actually, it's more equal to with their description to the Gabriel as well. It's interesting. It's an ethnical religion. You cannot be Yazidis. You can only be born as Yazidis. There's no proselytism as well. That's why it's a unique belief system of the region. Let's go back to talk about a little bit economy. And unfortunately, these two regions are not really rich. When you look at the gross domestic products numbers, although they are the one-third of the geographical size of the country and nearly 150 Turkish people, Turkish citizens, they live in the region, their contribution is less than 10%. That is quite dramatic. And I get this map from a special statistical institution. And the green color just represents the middle class people. Blues are upper middle class. Purple is the upper crust. Reds and yellows are lower income. Reds are the poor. And if you look at that, whole Turkey divided to middle class and a lower class, and especially the two major red zones, which are the poor people in the southeast and eastern part of Turkey, unfortunately. What are the major incomes of those people in Eastern Anatolia? Number one is definitely agriculture. And the major products is rice, cotton, and the pistachio. Turkey is the world's second major pistachio supplier. Iran is number one. So but there's a kind of boycotts through the trade in Iran. So Turkey is a major supplier of all the beautiful pistachios from Iran and from the Turkey, and that's an important place. Apart from that, animal husbandry definitely is a second major income, especially for Eastern Anatolia, because it's a mountainous place. We have more than 50 million livestock, sheep and lambs, and over 40 million cattle in all the mountains and the high plateaus of Eastern Anatolia. And related with that a little bit, around the Mardin and Gaziantep cities, jewelry production is very popular. It's a big custom for those people. And again, in the Gaziantep and Urfa and through the city of Van, carpet weaving were the important people among the villagers of the region. Let's start our journey all together. And where's the best place to start is definitely the southeast of Turkey is Antioch, or the ancient Antakya, or ancient Antioch. If you look at the small map over there, you can see that it's a connection to the Mediterranean part of country. That's why the climate is typical Mediterranean. Antioch, I would like to use the name word Antioch because that's a real historical name. It was established in the 3rd century BC by one of the best friends of Alexander the Great, Seleucus Nicator. And according to Roman sources, that city was the 3rd most crowded city in the Roman world. After Rome and the Alexandria, that was the most crowded city, Fourth one is Ephesus. Fifth one is Corinthia. And the sixth one is Athens. So you can see this is such an important trade center, one of the major distribution center of the whole the products coming from Asia, aka the Silk Road. And also for the history buff, people who love the history, this is be very close to place where Alexander the Great defeated the famous Persian king Darius III in nearby the Orontes River, which actually across and divides the city into two parts. Today, the river of Orontes is the major water sources of the city. Their modern city's population is basically 500,000 people, and this is ethnically such a rich place. We get Jews, Greeks, Armenians, Assyrians, Alawites, and Roman Catholic Church, Protestant church members, and the Sunni Muslims. They all live with a big piece. But city of Antioch is so crucial for the history of Christianity. This is the first city, according to Acts 11:26, where the believers of Christ, who were before called as people of the way, first time they were called as Christians. This is the place after the crucifixion of Jesus, where all the Christians lived in Jerusalem for 6 years, and then under the leadership of Peter, they all arrived at the city of Antioch. They lived 7 years over there, and according to belief, the building you can see in the picture was carved by Peter and used for the first communion. So both Roman Catholic and the Greek Orthodox Church agree that this building, this actual cave, was the first church of whole Christian world. It is an important city again, and that structure, because Paul also, with the help of Barnabas, came and met with all the apostles and had a big agreement about introducing the belief of Christ through the modern community called Gentiles, which were the non-Jews as well. This is such an important biblical site, this cave, and every Sunday, one representative of the Greek Orthodox Church and one representative of the Roman Catholic Church, they come here, they make a kind of like a prayers in that section. And when Pope Benedict XVI visited, and also Pope Francis, when they came to Turkey, this is the building. This is actually not the building, it's a cave. They just built the wall during the Crusader period, and they conduct their services in that spatial place. And also, Luke was born in here. He is one of the writer of the gospel, and Paul always started his missionary journeys from this beautiful place. And when you come to the city of Antioch, guys, we have world's largest mosaic museum. It's larger than the Museum of Bardo in Tunisia. It's an amazing workmanship. And by the way, we have some structures from Hittite periods, actually from the late Bronze Age as well. This is on the left-hand side, you see the sculpture of the famous Hittite king, Shipuluma I, and you can see the statue of Antoninus Pius. And then after that, your eye is going to have a beautiful feast of some of those amazing Roman mosaics. And actually, are any Roman structures in the city? No, because still Antioch is a living city. But wherever you dig the ground, folks, you can't believe that everywhere was full of Roman structures. 3/4 of the old town of the Antioch were built with all the beautiful Roman stones. I visited one house personally, and inside the house, next to the television on the wall, you have the beautiful frieze of Medusa. Medusa basically smiling in their living room, and the house owner's young daughter, every night she makes different makeup to the face of Medusa. Can you imagine that? They basically used all the old Roman stones and the marbles to build their houses. Look at the detail, all the intricate small pieces, and every material they use in here were the beach pebbles. They collect the pebbles, they cut the upper part cubical, lower part conical shape, they cover the floor with a wet plaster, and they insert all these pieces with a special equipment, looks like a tweezer, and they generally use young kids as a labor force because for a adult guy with the fat fingers like me, it was so difficult to put all those pieces to the floor as well. This is Ocania, and this is the mother of Achilles over there together. They're greeting, and they're probably a little bit sorrowful about their son and what's going to happen to him. And the old town, look at this, all the Roman arches, all the structures. It's such a lively place. And the food-wise and the bazaar-wise, this is also like a very coverable place. Also, we have a very important Roman structure very close to here. It's called Titus Tunnel. It's a spatial water irrigation canal, which was built in the 1st century AD. Its length is almost a mile. We have an indoor part as well. You can see everywhere it's a pure Roman structures were still living with the city itself. And its local bazaar is attractive not only for the travelers, but for many Turks coming from Istanbul, Ankara, the big cities. You can get probably the best spices of the Turkey from the market, the coppersmiths all around. And this is the one place, those people, they know how to mix the beef and the lamb with the different herbs and create those amazing local meat dishes of the region. I'm going to show you some plates, folks, and you're going to be, if you're now hungry, I'm sure you're going to order some Turkish foods from the local takeaway places within the couple of minutes. It's going to be a yummy experience for you. Because next destination is Gaziantep, which is a very important place, and it's the 9th most crowded city of Turkey with 2.2 million people. This is the capital of the kebabs. And generally in all the southeast part of the Turkey, we have a good quality of lamb, mutton, and we use cumin, black pepper, kakule, and ginger, and also so many different spices and allspice. And then we keep the meat inside the olive oil and with all these herbs and the paper paste at least for 2 days. And then the meat becomes so soft, and then we grill them as a kebab. In the city of Antep, we have an amazing mosaic museum as well. And all those mosaics come from one special city, which was also established in the 3rd century BC by good friend of Alexander the Great, Seleucus Nicephorus, and the city called Zeugma. They basically call the city as the Ephesus of the Euphrates. Especially in the 2nd and 3rd century ADs, the city's population reached up to 50,000, which was a quite important population for that time as well. And the rich traders of the old Middle East, they prefer to live in such a central location. And the mosaics discovered over there, they are, in terms of quality, they are really, really ranked as the best quality of detailed mosaics, especially the lady on the left is very popular. Today, many artists, specialists, they call her as the eyes of a gypsy girl. It's a phenomenal artwork, you can see. In the heart of the city, we have a citadel called the Castle of Gaziantep. Archaeologists discovered the traces of the human life starting from Neolithic period, and then a Bronze Age, and then Hittites, Greeks, Romans. It's a kind of stratified place. But during the Ottoman period, they restored all these big walls in here. And during the independence war of Turks against the Allied forces of the First World War, especially the French army, there was a big battle took place. And this is the city, unfortunately, French, after the First World War, a second time in history, they used the chemical bombs. But although the chemical bombs, the people of the city make a great defense, and after that, pushed all the French forces outside. And that's why normally, officially, the name of the city is Antep, But today we call the city as Gaziantep, which is like a holy warrior city, it means. Inside, when you walk around the city, especially the old parts, sometimes you can see the special sign called castles. And those castles were not like a castles or fortress. These are underground structures. They were all built in the 10th and 11th century ADs, and they were not actually a defense place for hide from the enemy. These are the places were built to keep the water of the city. It looks like Istanbul's underground water cisterns. But interesting thing, they built giant pools, and also they built kind of air tunnels. So with that way, they created the air circulation. So these are the places inside the big walled galleries on those structures. They could keep all their lemons, tangerines, and all other important products. So they designed it like a kind of refrigerator of the 10th or 11th century ADs. Such an amazing place. Again, in the old town, we have amazing bazaars. This city is famous with also sun-dried vegetables. You see the three ladies, these are the ladies I guided years ago, and above them you can see sun-dried red peppers, eggplants, okras, zucchinis. What Turkish people do? In the winter, these are all the summer vegetables. We put them in hot water, they become softened, and they're also like generally filled with rice. It's a type of meal we always called as dolma, and we make those or summer vegetables, and we cook them in the winter as well. Once you drive roughly 1.5 hours out of the city, you can reach the part of the Euphrates. And in the beautiful valley of the Euphrates, you see a beautiful castle, which was built by Greeks first, and then upgraded by the Romans and used by Turks after that. That's a place called Rumkale. It's so difficult to reach this structure by tour buses, but we have some amazing sailings, small like a daily boat trips, and we spend basically 2 hours on the boat, sail around the beautiful valleys and canyons of the Euphrates, and then reach that place and climb the top to see the beautiful Roman castle over there. There are 2 churches, also water cisterns, granaries. So probably Romans built this place in order to control all the trade traffic in Euphrates as well. And then you get another hour drive, and after that, you reach the city of prophets, the glorious Urfa. This is also a well-known ancient city called Edessa, which is a very important place for the early Christianity. If you ever heard the story, I'm not sure, King of Edessa, King Abdar, invited Jesus Christ. Hey, and he said, Jesus, you're not safe in Jerusalem. You're not going to be safe in any part in Galilee. So why don't you come to my city? And we like your concept of belief. We like to worship your God, and you can live freely. But Jesus denied and said, I have a mission to complete, but I will send something from me. And the ambassador of the King Abdar was over there, and that's the time where Jesus was crucified, and after that, buried, in a small cave. And 3 days later, when they opened the door, Jesus was not there, but his shroud was there. And as you know, the famous Jewish traditions, Jews were not allowed to enter the grave inside of the graveyard. So the ambassador of Abdar, he went there, he took the shroud and brought the city of Edessa, which is modern Urfa. And still among the Arab Christians of the city, there's a big urban legend that the real shroud is kept by the Christian families. So what you saw in city of Turin, today it was proved that it's a genuine fake shroud of the Jesus Christ, but this is a real shroud was kept somewhere among the Christian families in here. We love those stories. But for many people, city of Urfa is accepted as the city where Prophet Abraham and both Sarah was born. And Abraham and Sarah, they got married over there. And also, this is the place, according to the stories of Genesis, they got a conflict with the famous king Nimrod, where the Nimrods set a big pyre of fire and then put Abraham in the middle, but God make a big miracle. All the wood pieces turn into fish, and all the flame turn into water, and the life of Abraham was saved by the God. And then he make his testament with the God. What was the testament? Circumcision. And then he went to Canaan regions after that. So that's why, again, for many Jewish people, for many Christians people, this is always accepted as such an important place. The bazaars of the Urfa is so beautiful, and especially their red hot chili pepper. It has a special name called isot. It has a kind of like a purplish, dark purple color. Even very small amounts, like a fist, if you add through the mince or your pasta, even your salad, it gives a really spicy taste. Again, it's an important, coppersmiths is an important tradition of the region. So you can see them all around when you travel. But this is the city which hosts a very important place, Göbeklitepe. So I can talk roughly 2 hours just about the Gobeklitepe as well. But for many specialists, it's called as the oldest discovered artwork and temple of the human kind. Excuse me. Today, all the world historians agree about the one subject, and what's that? After the discovery of Göbeklitepe, changed the dates of the modern timing. In the past, we were always saying that first agriculture started around the 9000 BC, so this is the beginning of the Neolithic. Today, even we are not sure that even 12 or 13,000s are the beginning. With the new discoveries, I think it's going to move through the 14,000s before Christ. So history is changing with this amazing place. So what happened basically? In 1987, a farmer discovered one interesting stele in his farming land. And he took it to the museum, but the people of the museum, they didn't care. That was an animal cart. And they put it in the storage. Years later, in the year 1990, Professor Klaus Schmidt from Germany, he saw that piece in the Museum of Urfa, and he said that piece is much different than typical carvings. It's not even like a Bronze Age, it's old because it's something like a stone carved by different harder stone. And that's why, again, he found the farmer. And then through the place, he found that piece. They started excavations in 1995. And basically what they discovered, 4 circular structures. And in each circular structures, there are T-shaped columns, which actually are stylized human figures. And their size are around the 3 up to 6 meter. What I mean, like a 9 feet up to 18 feet high. And they were basically starting from the 4 tons up to 8 tons heavy. And they brought them, they carved them with the other hardened stones, like an obsidian, like a granite or basalt. These are generally kind of like a limestone, and then calcareic stones. And then they erected them with no concept of pulleys, with probably they just using the wooden beams, and they lift them with that way, and then created a circular places. And that's why first people said, so were they the temples or the gathering points of those like early people? Still, that's a big question mark. But today, we're definitely sure that before building the cities, people first built the temples. Temples or common gathering place, or maybe common meeting points, which we're not sure. So all those human figures were decorated with different animals. And today, that's why some anthropologists, they claim that those animals actually symbolizing the different tribes. So they got their own animal to represent themselves for their language. And when I say about the date of Göbeklitepe, this is 7,000 years older than Stonehenge, 7,500 years older than the Giza pyramids. I'm talking about really the beginning of the history for all the archaeologists and anthropologists and the historians. But the Schmidt has an interesting idea because during the excavations, Professor Schmidt and his team, they discovered that in the excavations areas, there were giant limestone storage, kind of like a barrels. And that's why, like, Schmidt claimed that maybe this is the place they were marinating wheat and the barley. And that's why farming started for the beer, not for the bread. That's what he said. It's kind of like it, because don't forget that for the histories, during the time of Hittites, during the time of like an Holy Roman Empire period, beer was not qualified as a drink like today for us when we watch the soccer game or NBA finals. Beer was the main food of the people. In the whole history of the Germany, even as the young kids were drinking beer. Why? This is the cleanest liquid source and the food supply for the people. Maybe that's a starting point is even Göbeklitepe. Anyway, this is a place which definitely requires at least like a 2 hours intense visit. But from there, if you drive roughly an hour and a half, you reach another beautiful biblical spot. And this place is called Haran. And I love this place. It's like my personal location, one of my favorite sites, because people are really, really unique and such a chatty people, so easy to communicate. And this place I personally call is the Alberobella of the Turkey. If you've ever been in the southern Italy, Alberobella, very close to Bari, it's a kind of place where you can see those beehives houses. We get exactly those style of houses, but ours are roughly 1,000 years older than Alberobella. And the biblical Haran is so important because before going to Canaan region, Abraham and Sarah settled and lived with their uncles Laban over there, and also Isaac and Jacob, they both came. Isaac's wife, Rebecca, from that region as well. And so that's a kind of like an important place mentioned in Old Testament several times. And when you walk around those beehive places, those houses are such a beautiful. So all the local families, they welcome you. You sit over there, you drink their local coffees, which there's a cocoa inside, and you smell it. It's so strong, like a sledgehammer. If you're tired, it just wake you up. You can feel like an Energizer bunny. And the geography is so beautiful. You feel yourself in the heart of the whole Mesopotamia plain and looking through those fertile lands. It looks dry, but once you walk, you can see rice, wheat, barley, whatever you deal with that soil, it always returns you with a good product. That's the importance of that region. Okay, guys, you left the Haran and you drive 2 hours, and then you reach the main mountainous part of that area. And then that's the place called Nemrut Mountain. It's roughly 7,000 feet. And when you reach the summit, you can't believe your eyes, because suddenly you saw yourself in a burial chamber of the famous Commagene king, Antiochus I. It was built, according to our predictions, around the 60 before Christ. It's a really like a kind of amazing place. So what they did basically, almost 6,000 tons of stones were broken in. With that way, they created the small pebbles, and they built a burial chamber like a big mound. And then through the east and the west sides of the mound, they built the seats which were representing all the Greek Parthenon. But Commagene Kingdom, as a location-wise, it was between the Persian Empire and the successors of Alexander the Great. So they were mixed with the Greek cultures, but they were also entitled with the Persians. So what is amazing thing, all the gods and the goddesses with the King Antiochus I sitting in a east wing in a kind of throne. But when you look at all the Greek gods, what is their important feature for me? They all have the Persian costumes, Persian beards, and the Persian style of crowns as well. On the western side, terrace, archaeologists discovered a beautiful slab with where a big line carved over there. And around in the body of the line, we get the stars. But out of the body, we see the three important planets, Jupiter, Mars, and the Mercury. And according to astrological studies, that exactly represents July 7th, 62 BC, which we assume that is a date with which Antiochus Theos just passed away. And it's kind of surprising in that case. How did they build this amazing structure? By the way, I would like to introduce you Persian stylized, Apollo on the left, Zeus in the center, and Hercules on the right. So this is the mount. The height of the mount at the beginning was roughly 170 feet, but today almost 20 feet disappeared because of the curious people who tried to climb the top and excavated this place. It's roughly 150 feet today. What archaeologists assume that probably they first built a stone-based structure surrounded with the wood, and then they build a kind of a wood fences, and after that they filled the rest of the gravel, which they brought the stones, and they brought it here, and then to the top they left it. So they created this huge mound with that very labor-intensive work, and it's 7,000 feet. I was over there in the mid-April, and it's still a fully snow, and we get caught in a heavy snowstorm. That's why the ideal time is generally starting from May till the end of the September. And after that, it's very difficult to climb this beautiful mountain. Another hour drive, you reach the pearl of the Middle East, the beautiful city of Mardin, which is, as a whole city, is under the protection of the UNESCO World Heritage Program. Beautiful stone masonries, most of the houses between the 4 up to 500 years old. And this is the city we have probably one of the most interesting and lovely people. These are the Assyrian community. That's a Semitic-speaking ethnic group, and this minority, they've been living on that region almost in the last 2,500 years. And who are the Assyrian Christians actually? In order to understand that, we have to go back to 4th century AD. In the 4th century AD, Christianity was not separated as Roman Catholics, Greek Orthodox. What was a major thing is the duality of the Jesus. In most of the mainstream Christians, they accepted both divine and human nature of Jesus Christ. But there were some real old church, they would say that, yes, we accept the human nature of Jesus, but his human nature, it looks like a spoon of honey inside the ocean. It's not really mattering, changing big things. And that's why his divine nature is more important. So that's why the first split in Christian church started in the 4th century AD with the two major streams, monotheist Christians and Duophysite Christians. And today, who are the Duophysites? The whole Christian world we know, Roman Catholics, Greek Orthodox, and then through all the Protestant church. Who are the Duophysites? The three oldest church in the world history: Egyptian Coptic Church, Assyrian Church, and Armenian Church. That's why sometimes we wrongly call Armenians as Orthodox, which is a big insult. Armenians were not Orthodox. They called themselves as an apostolic, but they were also part of the monotheist belief system. And among these three old churches, Assyrians, they mainly live in the city of Mardin. Today, with the two different divisions of when we say Orthodox, by the way, they were not Orthodox typically. Orthodox means the true. Catholic means universal. So Assyrian True Church, they have roughly 20,000 followers. And again, in Mardin, we have the Chaldean Catholic Church. So those people, roughly after the arrival of Crusaders, some of them converted to Catholic belief, and then they become the member of that community. And their numbers all just around the Mardin areas around the 20 up to 25,000. You can see some beautiful pictures from their church. And again, the worship language is not Greek, where all Bibles are written, but it's Aramaic, the language of Jesus, Paul, Peter, John, Thaddeus, Bartholomew, Philippus, and all of them, and including Mother Mary. But later on, after the big contribution of Paul, Greek became the language of the early Christians. There's a beautiful monastery, which is roughly 10 miles out of the city of Mardin, called Darul Zafaran. And that's a sign of a monastery of the delicious saffron, actually, if you translate that. The community members, it used to be the center of their patriarchate, not anymore, but still many church members, and also the clergy, they get their training in here from early age. And interestingly, unlike the Roman Catholicism, there's no celibacy except the patriarch and the metropoles, who were his cardinals. If the rest of the old community, the clergy members, they instead of celibate, they can celebrate. That's what we call, they can get married. Beautiful stone masonry of their monastery. It looks like a fortress, a small version of Vatican you can see in here, surrounded by beautiful vineyards. The local wines produced by the Assyrians are one of the top-notch quality of the wines in Turkey. Folks, I hope in the future, when you pop in my country, visit my country, I will give you that opportunity to drink the beautiful Assyrian wines as well. In the city of Mardin, starting from 13 and 11th centuries and 12th and 13th centuries, they built a lot of theology schools. But when we say theology schools, people always just say these are the places where Islam was taught. No, apart from Islam, some modern science like math, medicine, ophthalmology, optics, that kind of like a science were taught through the students as well. And Zinciriye Theology School from 13th century AD, it was built at the top on the slope of the hill. When you climbed the terraces, wow, you see the all Mesopotamia plain with a small hazy work. You can see also the following part of the Euphrates. It's such a breathtaking place. Again, very close to that area, we have a Kazimiye Theology School. Apart from Islam and also the philosophy of Judaism, they were taught math in that place. So it was an important math school as well. The Grand Mosque of Mardin, which is coming from 12th century, with its dome and with its beautiful minaret, it's an amazing structure. Once in the same location, there was a church dedicated to St. George, but later on it was upgraded with the adding of the minaret and the beautiful dome. It was converted to a beautiful mosque. You can see the calligraphy, Islamic calligraphy with the Kufi style, with the Persian style over there. And when you look at the minaret, you see the beautiful wall decorations of 12th century ADs. These are the teardrop patterns you can see. And also in the city of Mardin, the modern post office building come from late 18th, early 19th century. It's an amazing structure. It was a house of a very rich carpet trader once, but later on used by the post office. Today, it's a kind of city museum where you can see and understand about the daily life of the wealthy people of the city of Mardin. The Mardin cuisine, and this is the place we have to make a short visit, maybe even, or a Western tour. We can make a 3 days post or 2 days post visit.
to
It's
eat.
this amalgamation of a really good quality of lamb, beef, tomato, peppers, and the onions. Look at this quality. And they're especially rib dolma. That's a rib of lamb. They fill it with the rice and the nuts, especially they put nuts, pine nuts, like a raisins. It's kind of like this is an experience meal, really. And even with many, like a, sometimes it turns to even the vegetarians. Wow, I should really eat that. Yep, I feel hungry right now. I told you guys. I worry about the quality of the foods. From that city of Mardin, if you travel directly through the north, through the location of Lake One, and in the southern part of the Lake One, you reach a beautiful cemetery territory. That's a famous place called Ahlat. Especially between the 10th and 12th century AD, all the famous Seljukian Turks, who were actually mostly living in the Iranian side, where the world's most beautiful city, Isfahan, was their capital in that time. They built those cemeteries. There's a beautiful stone masonry. There's a huge influence of Persians, and with those conical burial chambers, you see the influences of the Armenian people. So they built those burial chambers through the way. And roughly another an hour and a half drive, you reach the Turkey's most sunny city. Although it was in a roughly 8,000 feet altitude, city of Van takes the most of the sunlight in the year in whole Turkey, guys. And the city, is known with having the largest lake of Turkey, Lake One, which is size roughly 1,500 square miles. For my Canadian friends, for anyone from the Midwest, you guys have large lakes. We know that. Your lakes looks like our oceans, actually. But this is quite like a huge geographical lake, and it's one of the maybe major freshwater source of region and part of the Euphrates. It originates from some small tributaries coming from that place as well. And of course, if you have a big lake, look like a Loch Ness monster, we get a one lake monster. That's a huge urban legend about it. We get the boat trips, and every boat, they get a glass bottom. They organize this famous one lake monster trips over there. But guys, every boat, they have a big banner. They say that if you want to see the or Nessie, you have to drink 3 glasses of Turkish raki, which contains 50% alcohol. And after third glass, you will definitely see Nessie on the lake as well. It's a great fun too. Okay, guys. In this lake, what was mountain were that, Michelle? Hi, Michelle, again. This is Mount Nemrut, right over there. It's not the mountain Ararat, and it is one of the highest mountain with almost 15,000 feet altitude. And through here, you see this beautiful Holy Cross Church. It's a small island in the lake, and they built this church around like in the first 9th century, and then they upgraded through the 12th and 13th centuries. On the walls, if you look at that, these are basalt walls. You see the stories of Old and New Testament prophets. Right through here on the right-hand side, you can see this is like where Jesus was saving the Peter and Andrew in the Lake Galileo. And look at the facade where you see some other whole important people in a New and Old Testaments perfectly carved through the walls. And roughly another 40 minutes drive before reaching the downtown city of Van, you can reach the castle of Van. It was first used by the Urartians. These are one of the very well-known civilization on the eastern part of Turkey, who ruled that territory between the first millennium BC till the 2nd century BC. And many historians also advocate that they were the ancestors of modern Armenian community. And this castle we have some interesting structures. And one of the most important monuments is actually the inscription of the famous Persian emperor Xerxes, who lived in his 5th century BC, and the follower of the famous Persian emperor Cyrus the Great. And those inscriptions are so intricate, well preserved, because they were carved in a very high cliff of the castle, which is very difficult to climb. And then there were 3 languages. First language on the left is Babylonian. Second language in the middle is Persian, which is Old Farsi. And the third language is Aramaic. So it was actually kind of a warning through all the different regions, all the different people living in that territory from the vicious Persian emperor, Xerxes himself. Of course, there were so many Roman and then Artukian and then the Seljukian Turks contributions through the castle itself. And a part of the castle, you can see some like granaries. Those granaries are still well preserved. They discovered some beautiful rotten wheat and barley seeds in that region. And this is Mustafa Uysun, who is the local guard of that territory, and he is still one of the 38 people in the world who can read Urartian cuneiform scripts. He's the only one who's not academic. He's just an elementary school graduate, but he was a guard of that place after spending over 35 years in the region. From all the academic specialists, he learned the Urartian language. He's still doing some over there, selling some souvenirs. And when the travelers visit, he's the one who takes you to nearby those beautiful cuneiform scripts, and he deciphers them for you as well. It's a really experience. He is accepted as one of the UNESCO World Living Heritage person. Foods is the part of the Turkish culture, guys, and the city of Van is famous with the breakfasts. And those breakfasts are so rich. Let's start. We have a special pastries full of those called börek, filled with potato, beans, and the cheese. Different type of like a jams, at least 3-4 type of cheese, butters, or famous upper left, look at the picture, clotted cream from buffalo milk, deep into the honey, and or another great food called katmer, phyllo dough, where inside is filled with pistachio, clotted cream, and lots of like a butter. Wow, it's a once in a lifetime experience food as well, right? You can see over there. All right, we are moving a little bit through the upper north, through the slopes of the Mount Ararat. Look at Ararat, such a beautiful, amazing structure right over there. And on the slopes, you can see Ishakpaşa Palace from early 18th century. It's such an amazing structure. In order to prove and show the richness of the Ottomans, they built this amazing structures in the 18th century. And it has almost 140 rooms inside. It's the first building in the East which has central heating system. They just really copied the Roman hypocaust and adapted through the interior of the structure as well. And it's facing directly through the mountain Ararat. And of course, the monumental portals, you can see all the detailed rock carvings, which is the art of the Persians, Greeks, Armenians, and then Seljukians, and then it became a tradition of Ottomans as well. And a little bit, if you go to the north, you will reach the city of Kars. I'm personally kind of in love with that beautiful city because this is a city in the late 19th century invaded by Russians. And during this Russian invasion, Russians built some amazing stone brick structures. So when you walk around, you feel the Turkish, Kurdish, Azeri, which is like another Turkish ethnical group, influences and all around the city of Kars as well. And while we are visiting this place, there's a very important Armenian city, ancient Armenian capital, Ani, which was built first in the 6th century, and people lived in that place almost 700 years till the 13th century AD. And this is one of the really inspirational places to visit because you really learn and see the Armenian architecture, how it positively affected Turkish and Islamic architecture as well. And Ani, by the way, means city of the 1001 church. That is another interesting description for that place. And while you walk around the Ani, you can see lots of Armenian churches, mostly from 10 and up to 13th centuries. Some of them, even the wall paintings, the frescoes, are extremely well preserved. And stone masonry again, the detail work. And this place for a really long time, nobody tried to preserve, but today is Turkish government put a lot of force to protect the structures are intact, which shows the great workmanship of the Armenian masters. And it's in the modern Armenian border as well. And now you drive 2.5 hours and you reach the city of Erzurum, which is another gastronomical center, which is a famous with all the ski slopes, and especially the lovers of 13th century architecture meet exactly. And one of the really amazing structures is 2-minaret madrasa. Wow, look at the height of those old minarets. Their height is almost 70 feet high. And 13th century Seljukians dominates the region. And then during the Seljukian period, they decorate the city with amazing theology schools, mosques, and the burial chambers. And of course, in the late 13th century, the city was invaded by the Mongols. But Mongols, rather than destroying those structures, they started to add more Mongolian influenced structures, like Yakutiye Medrese is one of them, theology school. Look at that minaret. You see the little bit Central Asian, a little bit Uzbek style decorations over there as well. It's in the heart of the modern city. And this is a city where they locally obtain the black amber stone. It's a semi-precious stone. And you can see that it's used for jewelry making. Many people believe that the black amber has a kind of feature to relax you, to suit your mind as well. That's why they use it as a prayer beads, and you can do your meditations with that stone as well. And this is my favorite kümbets, the burial chambers. These are the Seljukian kümbets. But if you remember the city of Ani, you can see the huge influence of Armenian architecture in that place too. Okay, my dear friends, after seeing those pictures, we get our final part in the eastern part of Turkey, but right now we've reached the Black Sea. And this is a famous Trabzon, or in the books of Hemingway, he mentioned that place as Trebizond city. It's a small city. Even today, in the modern times, the population is less than 1 million, roughly around 800,000 people. But if you drive roughly an hour in the north through the Pontus Mountains on the cliffs, you see this beautiful monastery. First, they built a church around the 4th century AD, but later on, this super castle-style monastery was created in the 14th century AD. For a long time, that's where most of the well-known monks, priests, and even later on become the patriarchs of the ecumenical patriarchate of Greek Orthodox Church. They get their trainings from this amazing place. Quality of the frescoes are really unique. This is Maria Honzonton in Greek, it's called. She is the container of uncontainable. This is one of the best description of Jesus Christ. And on the right and left, Archangel Gabriel on the right, Michael on the left, and the old angels were saluting infant Christ and the Mother Mary, who was also accepted as the Queen of the Heaven. And look at who is at the top, the Holy Father. beautiful depictions you can see. And this place was under restoration for a long time, and it's open to public visit again recently. And every year they conduct a one big sermon in that place as well. Right in the city center of Trabzon, we have also another Hagia Sophia, Holy Wisdom Church dedicated to Jesus Christ. Today, this place is actively used as a mosque, but certain parts are open to visit, and they can still see all the beautiful frescoes and wall paintings in that region as well. How do you get there? Get up there? And if you're fit to do a certain part by minibus, if you're fit, at least for a 1.5 miles uphill walk, I take people as a hike, but minibuses goes till the entrance of the monastery. So you get both options, but hiking part is challenging, but it's a fun. And look at the beautiful fresco from the Hagia Sophia, where you can see the seraphims, the guards of the heaven. They are just saluting you over there. Again, from the city center, if you have another an hour and a half uphill drive through the Pontus Mountains, you can see the Uzun Göl. It's a natural mountain lake, but we built a lot of restaurants and cafes and a walking patio around it. This is one of the places you can relax and enjoy the Pontus Mountains with pure oxygen over 4,000 feet. Again, the Trabzon region and the Black Sea region, local delicacies are a little bit different, but anchovies is one of the main delicacy. They fill with the rice and they cook on the oven. There are meatballs, there are filados, there are pide, the Turkish pizza with lots of local cheese, and also special cheese fondue, but with the corn flavor and the kind of halloumi cheese mix. These are the famous delicacies of the Black Sea region. Wow, I've been talking for almost 1 hour, 10 minutes. How's it going? I'm sure you got a lot of questions. So
that was amazing, and we're all starving now.
I know, I told you guys, when the subject is this part of the country, oh my gosh, with a kind of like a good kebab, good desserts, glass of wine, the Turkish wines, and maybe raki will be a good friend too. If you have any questions, I would like to take, and not only to me, we have also another renowned tour guide, Mr. Haluk, who's also the owner of the Oasis company. He's my master about guiding, so he can also answer all the questions. Berna is our local friend. Please give us a hard time. Anything you're curious, we are ready to help you and answer your questions as well. Hi, Timothy, and hi, Jess, by the way.
If you want to stop sharing, Mert, we can have more people on the screen.
Okay.
I'll stop screen right now. There we are. Well, hello, everybody. You can just unmute yourself and ask away. And hello, Haluk. Where are you? Ah, there you are. Hi. Long time no see.
Yeah. Hopefully, very soon we'll see each other again.
Yes. Yes. Very soon.
So one question is, are there any local and folk festivals in those cities? Yes. One of the places, Antioch. In Antioch is known as organizing food festivals. Same thing for the city of Antep, and also Mardin. They do a lot of local activities. But one of the interesting thing today nowadays is Mardin is getting the attraction of the jazz artist, and they started to organize a jazz festival in this authentic architecture with an amazing local acoustic, listening jazz music. And I heard that in 2022, they bring Joshua Redman. He's my favorite saxophone players. Oh my gosh, listening to Joshua in a Mardin, and they're not gonna make it like a ticket sales. They wanna make it for everyone to listen. Imagine that you sit in one of the steps of the hills of the city and hearing the music of Joshua and drinking Assyrian wine. That's a real treat, folks. I love that. Hi, Chloe. I see my friends over there all around. Okay, what's the other question? Midwest of the, I love the country. Thank you, guys. Well, if I don't want to miss any question. I have been lucky to visit many of those cities and hope to return and explore. Yeah, but like sometimes people ask, and I want to talk about some real issue over there in the city of Gaziantep. Folks, Turkey, we love to welcome everyone, especially when they're in difficult conditions. And proudly, I'm telling that this is the country which has the highest number of refugees in the world. We get 5 million refugees from Syria, from Afghanistan, from Uyghur Turks, which are in the Eastern Turkestan, and 5 million, that's a huge number. But especially the Syrian refugees, when they come to Southeast, they brought a lot of problems, especially in starting from 2011 till the 2015, the time like a special city of Gaziantep experienced a lot of problems. And what's the number one problem? Old disease which disappeared in Turkey, like polio, like tuberculosis, they all return back. Now all the kids in that region, they started get now they return back and get the polio injections. And polio was abandoned and left to Turkey almost 30 years ago. Now it's back. And same thing for the tuberculosis. But second important thing, what happened, many of the refugees coming there, they were the poor people. Because all the rich refugees, they came to Istanbul, they purchased the shops in the Grand Bazaar, or the doctors, the lawyers, they return back to business and they're having their fun over there. But the poor ones, they stayed in the Southeast. And there was a culturally shocking thing happened. Lots of rich upper class people of the Gaziantep, they divorced their wives and they started to get married with the young Syrian wives. That triggered a kind of a big social issue. And I never heard it because I live in Istanbul or I live in Kuşadası. And imagine that when I went to region, I heard about that problem and that shocked me. It's a kind of like a big culturally shaking thing, like lots of divorce took place because of the Syrian woman. And that's kind of like one thing people discuss nowadays, what's going to happen with the Syrian brides. I know it sounds like quite sometimes funny, but people of Gaziantep, they took it very seriously. Other big issue where people always ask about, Mert, what's going on with the Kurds? And there's nothing going on with the Kurds. Most of the Kurds and Turks have been living peacefully, and we adopted as a part of this country. And nowadays, so many schools, so many universities, they have their Kurdish study departments, and especially in the southeast part of the country, we have Kurdish broadcasting, public Turkish PBS, basically, broadcasting in Kurdish language as well. But there's a PKK problem, carry on. But Turkey, during the Syrian issues, in the northern Iraq and the northern Syria, we built a buffer zone, which is basically 15 miles. Turkey put almost 200,000 active soldiers over there and built the bases. So with that way, in the last 5 years, we keep everything out of the borders of country. We keep everything in the northern Iraq and the northern Syria, and we involve with PKK over there. That's why, that's the one thing. Nowadays, people can safely and easily travel in this part of the country. And also, that's quite surprising, the COVID rates is extremely low in this part of country as well. But Turkey is doing our COVID protocols are straight and strict, and we had a kind of like a big jump in April when the spring started. We reached up to 60,000, but this number today is almost through the 6,000s. We reduced the number people get infected by the COVID. You are required to put the mask, it's compulsory, although half of the population, they kind of try to run away, but still in the museums, in historical sites, you are required to put your mask, you are required to put your hands to the hand sanitizers. And at least we're doing well in that case. And I think 2022, we're going to let the wagons roll in Turkey in that case. I just want to pass the brief.
Great.
Any questions? Give me a hard time, guys. Is it normally possible to travel between those places by public transportation? it is basically, I'm going to answer your questions shortly as well, Chloe. But first question is, traveling between the cities, you can, but it takes a lot of time. So guys, rather than losing your time in between the public transfers, join our tour. You can save the time. That's the one thing we do, but absolutely you can do intercity transfers as well. Didn't this husband provide money for the Syrian bride's family? I think so. That's what happened. Basically, a sad thing, because in Gaziantep is a rich city. I have to tell you, it's the richest city in the region. There are huge textile giants over there. And we have also lots of upper middle class families living over there. So probably because of this money supporting the bride's family, it happened, and Syrian families probably supported that. It's a kind of challenging subject. And to be honest, this thing, it never ever talked in Istanbul or rest of the country. And when I traveled the region 1 month ago, I faced it and I got shocked, because this is something which all region talking. They don't talk about the President Erdogan. They don't talk about the Biden or the crazy Putin or COVID. Everybody was talking about the Syrian brides. That was a major local issue in the region. All right. Any questions? Can we talk more about the history of Second Hagia Sophia? Yes, Michelle, of course. This is not as old as the or beloved Hagia Sophia of Constantinople. It's compared with that. It's like a little bit younger, from like a 10th century they first built, and then they upgraded in the 12th and 13th century. And until like a 16th century, it was actively a church. And then it converted to mosque, and then became a museum. And around the 2010, it became a half mosque, half museum as well. So like a kind of, it's beautiful Byzantine structure as a structure wise, and it's well preserved. But in 2009, there was a very intense restoration took place. So thanks, Lord, we are going to keep the building intact, at least several hundred more years.
No other questions? Everybody's too hungry.
You can order the clothes like a takeaway service from around. And by the way, good news, if you ever go to Whole Foods, now you can find some Turkish wines. They are sold as organic Turkish wines. Haluk abi, you may know the brands was Arkas Lucien, and what's the other one? Chalet from the go. Oh, Haluk.
Cheers.
But wait for a second.
Okay, now I want to drink and food.
This is my favorite rakı, Ramaka. That's a special Turkish rakı. Shall I remember? I sent it to the picture. And this is a really unique taste. It's 5
That's
times.
also my favorite, Mert.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, that's also my favorite.
They produce only for the 2 months, and I saw in the market 3 bottles. I kind of spent all my like a weekly income as an investment through that bottle. So I'm gonna take them to Kuşadası and drink them in the summer, because you can find them in every market as well. Yeah. So guys, I need to confess, Turkey is known as like a predominantly Muslim, but we are kind of soft Muslims. Drinking is a daily habit. And what we always say is, what's the difference between the Turkish weather and Turkish wedding and Turkish funeral? One less drunk. That's the best way to say. What is a good English history of Turkey? Definitely one book I recommend, Seton Lloyd, a famous British historian who lived in Turkey almost for 30 years. He's an amazing historian, archaeologist. He was the head of the British Archaeology Association, and his book is called History of Turkey. From penguins you can find in Amazons. It starts from Paleolithic period. It goes to the end of the Byzantine period. He is an amazing guy. I love him. So I strongly recommend you that book as well, so you can check. But apart from that, John Freely, who was also my professor from my University of Boğaziçi, former Robert College, his books are amazing. If you just Google John Freely And you can find a lot of great books about the history of Turkey, history of Asia Minor, in a Greek period, Ottoman period. His daughter is also like wrote an amazing book about Istanbul. So I'm sure you can get that. But for the Eastern Turkey, there's a great book of our Nobel Prize winner writer, Orhan Pamuk. It's a book called Snow. It's about his childhood. Is a talk about someone's childhood, which took place in the city of the city of Kars. I think that gives you a little bit idea about how the domestic life of the people. So I'm sure that gives you a real deal about the region and the life as well. Just the one thing I didn't mention in the Eastern, especially among the Kurdish people, the belonging a big tribe is a big important thing. Orhan Pamuk, I'm writing down just to the, Berna, can you write it to the message, please?
Yeah.
So Mert, not that one, the first one you mentioned that wrote History of Turkey.
Seton Lloyd, I'm writing that myself. Seton Lloyd, I think I put the Lloyd right. Maybe it is 2L, I'm not sure.
It's 2 L's.
Or maybe 2D. Just check it that you can find from the Google. Like you're very tribal. Their tribe is more important than their families, and life is very patriarchal. So that's why it's kind of interesting thing. And it used to be the place where a huge Armenian community used to live. Most of the Armenians, they don't live in that part of Turkey. They're living more in the western part of Turkey. So, and Berna we were talking with a couple of days ago, that's also the place. Culturally, there's one concept which some of you never heard before, but not only for the Turkey, Eastern Turkey. In Eastern Turkey, in Syria, in Iraq, in a part of the Iran where Armenians and Kurds live, there's a concept called honor killing. Have you ever heard that concept before? It's kind of like a sad story, but sometimes if the girls have an affair before getting married with someone which is indicated with their parents, and if the parents learn that, the families generally execute that. It's not a Turkish tradition, but it's mostly coming through the Eastern Middle East tradition. It's very active among the Armenians, among the Kurds, among the Assyrian community, and among the Persian Kurds and Iranian Armenians. They do that practice a lot, very harshly. So geography is hard in those regions. That's why life is hard, very patriarchal families. I'm from West, Berna, Mr. Haluk, we're all from West. Our lives are more matriarchal, to be honest with you, where it's a kind of Aegean lifestyle. That's why even it's very interesting for Turks to discover that geography. That's why we try to also convince the Turkish people, hey, come on, let's travel, let's learn, and let's taste the great food. And lots of Turks, that's why I travel through the east and southeast part of Turkey too. Cheers.
Stop for a second about this issue about the honor killing. Actually, yes, you are right. It was a big issue in the east part of Turkey. Gradually, it's dying now because the women's movement in Turkey is getting very strong, and they are very keen on defending their rights, and they are working very actively in the east part of Turkey in collaboration with the humanitarian groups from the West. And now it's getting really fading away. I mean, if you look at, of course, still there's big pressure on the young girls from their families, but also there's a pressure on those families from the bigger civilian groups and from the women's movement groups. And I think it's working positively, and hopefully in the very near future, it will be less and less in Turkey.
We hope. Thank you, guys. I hope it was a good afternoon for you. Any questions?
Thank you so much, Mert. It was, I learned so much. And of course, now I just wish I was there right now, as always.
Same here.
But yeah, looking forward to finalizing the itinerary with Berna and you, Mert. And I'll be sending off an email to everybody with a recording of today. And probably in about a week, I'll send you off a couple itineraries as well. Thank you all for coming out on
For
a
you guys,
weekend.
can everybody smile so I can take a one picture? Whoops. Oh, Bernard, can you do it on my behalf? The camera. Wait for a second. Okay, it's working. Smile, hands up.
Hi.
Thank you, guys. Take care.
Buddy, have a good day, everybody.
Have a good day,
Hello,
everyone.
Luke. So good to see you.
Good to
Bye,
see you.
Jess. Bye, team. Bye, Michelle. Bye.
Bye.